What's going to help you in your marital stand or in your marital journey, dealing with a situation like yours? Now, I do want you to know that everybody does not always go through the warfare when it comes to getting married. Some people go through warfare in their marriage, and they learn about God and they learn who God is. Sometimes it doesn't always happen in separation or infidelity or divorce. Sometimes it's through arguments and things like that. And a lot of times God does things. A lot of times God sends signs before the actual divorce or separation actually happens. So I want you to get in the practice of not comparing your life and your process to everybody else, because at the end of the day, you don't know what a person's going to go through. You might be conquering a battle that they might encounter 3 years from now, 6 years from now. So just because it looks like other people are happily married, it doesn't mean that they're not going to go through any test or trial. So something that God spoke to me in my prayer time to talk about is understanding that your behavior matters. Understanding that your responses matter. All right. Now, the word lets us know that if you are dealing with a spouse that does not believe the word, that does not believe, Christ died on the cross, the word tells us that we win them over by our behavior and not our words. Okay. And this is something that God has shared with me. Your spouse has a lot of imperfections right now, whether they are rebellious, whether they are getting there. They are a work in progress. All right. So God is defending you and is working this out beyond what you can see. Okay. However, I want to bring to your attention you. All right. Because a lot of times we talk about them, but I want to bring to your attention you. You have to understand, even as a wife in general, like as a believer, your character matters. The way that you act matters, okay? I remember going through several seasons with my spouse where there were things that I knew about that God would tell me not to say anything, or God would tell me not to respond in the way that he wants me, that I wanted to respond. And it was illogical. It did not make sense to me. And I loved God more than I loved my husband. So I made decisions to obey him, even when it didn't seem like, it made sense to me. You know how when you're going through things and you want to hold your spouse accountable and you want to tell them so many different things, sometimes God will have you be quiet and just to pray for them, because he already knows what he's going to do to fix that situation. It's so important in your time of separation to understand God, who he is to you. Because it's important to know this, because in the time of trouble, you have a knowledge that you did not have before. You have an understanding that God is Jehovah Gabor, that God is your provider, God is your source of all things, and that all you got to do is obey him and he will answer your prayers when you pray according to his will. Now, my very first lesson in my marital destiny, in my marital journey, was understanding that my responses and my behavior mattered. I failed many tests, okay? I have failed many tests. I have failed a lot of tests when it came to my triggers. And I had to understand that it's important to know your season And it's important to know how to operate in your season. If you're in a fragile season where you're in your feelings, then you need to stay in a state of worship. You need to stay in a state of your emotions being protected, your mind being protected, doing these things, covering yourself with the entire armor of God, okay? So I want you to understand that in the seasons where you're fragile, you need to use wisdom and protect your faith, protect your, guard your heart. Don't have unrealistic expectations if they're still with the other woman. I'm here to tell you that God is defending you, okay? But it is important to behave in a way so that you can win your spouse over to the will of God. Obedience is required. Now, I will explain to you, when it came to the third party, God needed me to obey him in my character because this other woman was not bringing my spouse peace in his life. So God was showing me, Raven, you can't behave in an unpeaceful way because I am causing turmoil where he is, and I need you to be at peace. I don't want him to come to you and all you're doing is reminding him of his sin. You need to practice forgiveness. You need to practice grace. You need to practice humility in all of these different things. And I had no idea that was God, what God was doing. He was causing turmoil and allowing things to happen. And me and the other person would have not been no different. He would not have had a reason to obey God concerning me because look at how I was acting. So obedience will set you apart from the other woman. Okay? A woman of God is different. We have a different glow. We have a different way about ourselves than the woman in the world who doesn't obey God. So our response and how we behave and how you act matters, okay? So you can't be out here doing crazy things. Take your emotions to God. Take everything to the Lord, okay? And God will teach you how to operate in the season where you at. Being quiet while your spouse is doing things that you don't want or don't like, or we say plain in our face, and God is telling you to be quiet, takes a lot of humility. Okay, it takes a lot of humility to be quiet. But if God is telling you to be quiet, he has a plan to end things and make things the way that he desires for it to be. So don't be dismayed and don't fret not. Learn the lesson. Get through this so that you don't have to go through this again, okay? If this is your first time on my page and your spouse is with another woman and God is telling you to stand and fight for your marriage, even if you are a God-ordained stander, I have an ebook called Uprooting the Other Woman that has saved a lot of marriages. I didn't even think this ebook was going to do what it did, but God told me to write it and I did. This ebook is going to teach you how to pray. You don't have to be married to get this ebook, all right? It has helped men who are not married, okay? So this ebook will teach you how to pray, your spiritual authority. You're going to learn to be aggressive towards the devil. You're not praying against your spouse, but you are praying against the demonic agenda of Satan. Whatever the enemy is influencing them to do, that is what you're praying against, and you will learn how to pray against. I have every prayer point that you will ever deal with in this ebook, okay? With the ebook, you will get a discounted ebook called Praying Him Through a Double Mind. This ebook has helped women pray for their spouse's mind like never before, because we know that the mind is the enemy's battlefield. So all of that is in the link in my bio. I love you, and I'm going to see you in the next video. So this week we are focusing on God and not the devil, okay? See you in the next video. Love you.